Here's why I'm excited. We're talking about your favorite thing,
Really?
running backs.
Oh.
But we get to talk about running backs that we're avoiding.
Okay.
Admittedly, I used to be a big proponent of, having lots of good running backs. And I think I just seeing these injuries pile up, just leaning more and more zero RB. That being said, you got to fill out these starting lineups. You need to have some running backs in there. So not only are we going to tell you who we're avoiding and why, but we'll tell you who we'll target instead and why. Let's start with you. Kick it off. I mean, off the rip, it just seems
I had to.
why?
I had to be honest here. You already know who I'm avoiding at the running back position.
All of them.
I mean, just about. But there's one specific player currently ranked as the RB6, I believe, on Keep Trade Cut.
And he was running back 7 to end the season.
He was very productive. Kyren Williams, running
Okay.
back for the Rams. Mike, Kyren Williams was very productive this year. Very impressive. I love it. If he was in your fantasy team, congratulations. He helped you out a ton. But last podcast, we were just talking about how Damian Pierce has been a disappointment in his second year. Now, Kyren Williams, he's already in his second year. He's got another year. I'm not comparing Kyren Williams exactly to Damian Pierce, but
you're just making a parallel statement. That's all. I get it.
It's a day 3 running back. That's what this comes down to. And Mike, let me just make the comparison here. Day 3 running backs to rush for 1,100 yards and catch 25 passes since 2013. Okay, which is what our boy Kyren Williams did here. Jordan Howard, Jay Ajayi, Justin Forsett, Chris Carson, and Aaron Jones. All right, that is a solid list. But Mike, I do not consider any of those players at really any point of their careers a top 5 running back in Dynasty. And if you did value them at that level, I think you would have been disappointed by all of them except for Aaron Jones. And now Chris Carson had some injuries and that kind of unfortunately ended his career a little bit sooner than we would like.
With JJ as well.
Same as well. But these are all really good running backs, but these are not top 5 Dynasty running backs. These are not running backs who are all pro and Hall of Fame kind of guys. Like, we're not always going to have all these Hall of Fame guys, but CMC, I mean, that's a Hall of Fame guy. We have these top tier guys. Kyren Williams does not fit into that top tier, and that's why I'm avoiding him, because his value is just too high. I always say I don't hate players, I hate values. Kyren Williams' value to me is way too high. He is a sell if I had him. He is an avoid otherwise. And it comes down to I need to find some better value if I'm going to be spending that much to go acquire a running back. I want someone I just feel more confident about, safer back moving forward. And until the history proves otherwise, I can't commit long-term to a day 3 running back. A team has not committed draft capital to a player that is in the first 3 rounds. I cannot commit my long-term value to Kyren Williams. Now, if you're picking him up at RB10, RB12 value, I'm fine with that. He's very productive. But I think at this point, I'd much rather move away from him, avoid him, go after some other running backs. Like a Jonathan Taylor is someone I'm targeting if I'm looking to go acquire a top running back. Jonathan Taylor, his explosiveness was missing at the beginning of the season, and we had a lot of questions about, if what Jonathan Taylor was doing saw Zach Moss do so well with the Colts. But when Jonathan Taylor came back at the very end of the season, that explosiveness was back. We saw a rested Jonathan Taylor. They took their time bringing him back because they knew the season was pretty much over, and they knew that they needed him for playoffs if they did make it. So they took their time bringing him back. He came back healthy, and we saw that explosiveness. In just the last 3 games of the season, he had 13 runs of 10-plus yards or more, Mike. 13 runs in 3 games of 10-plus yards, including 8 of those coming against Houston in the final week, a team that was vying for the playoffs and playing their hardest. And Jonathan Taylor going off 8 runs over 10 yards. We saw that explosiveness. Jonathan Taylor is locked in to be with the Colts for the next 3 years on his contract. I love a running back I can be confident in for 3 years. Jonathan Taylor is a running back like that. He's got the talent. He has the ability. We've seen it before. He's finished as RB1 before in his second season. Jonathan Taylor is that guy. 169 attempts for 741 yards and 7 touchdowns this year. Missed a couple of games, but that was still a productive season when he was on the field. I love some Jonathan Taylor. I think even though right now he's still being valued right on the cusp of that top 5 running back in Dynasty, I think he's still fair value because of what kind of production you're getting moving forward.
And, I do want to say some people may point out that you have been one to say that day 3 draft capital for a running back is not necessarily a death sentence. I think the difference in this situation with Kyren Williams is a day 3 running back, until they prove time and time and time and time again that they should be valued as a top 5 running back, they should not be valued as a top 5 running back. We don't know what the Rams are going to do moving forward. If it's Kyren and you could just keep rolling the dice with him, great. If you could get out from under him and possibly move and upgrade, then I think that's even better.
Kyren Williams is a very productive player. I expect him to be productive again to start 2024. But when I'm looking at a running back of that value, I want someone I feel confident in on some kind of long-term level, which is so hard right now at the running back position to feel confident even into next season, let alone past next season. Jonathan Taylor is one of those few players I truly feel confident about past next season in his situation and his talent. And guys like Kyren Williams, I don't. So I can't value them at the same level. That's really what this comes down to. Nothing against Kyren Williams, just value-wise.
So, Nate, I am avoiding Josh Jacobs, running back 15 on keep trade cut. He finished last season as running back 28. Full disclosure, he did miss some time with quad injury, quad strain. Specifically, he's coming off a career low in yards per carry at 3.5. It's going to be a 6-year running back and a free agent. This is the time that I think you could look elsewhere. It's just the writing is kind of on the wall here. I don't think he's going to be back with the Raiders. I do think that they move on to Zamir White. I didn't want to just go from Josh Jacobs to Zamir White. Felt like that would be a little lazy. So instead, I'm going to look at James Cook. He's taken the lead role in the Buffalo backfield. I understand Josh Allen is going to get his rushing attempts, but when you have a running back that's tied to a player like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, these guys, they run a little bit. They are going to slightly depress the productivity of the running back, but still, 237 carries, Nate, 1,122 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. And he's a decent receiver, too. 44 receptions, 445 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And he did finish as running back 12. So he was an RB1. He's currently running back 10 on keep trade cut. I like his upside next year more than some of the running backs that are around him, such as Rashad White, Saquon Barkley, and Kenneth Walker III. He is an above-average receiver as a running back. Check this out. He was number 2 in yards per reception for running backs with 10.2. He was number 5 in the NFL for running backs for yards per touch, total 5.6. Number 4 in the NFL for rushing yards. If this is his ceiling, Nate, it's a pretty solid one that you can put right in your lineup for a few years. You're going to have to pay like a late 24 first, though. But he's also right around value-wise Debo, who we've been trying to move off of for a while, Isiah Pacheco, George Pickens, and a 25 first as well. So 24 first, late 24, or 25 first should get you James Cook.
I love this, Mike. I think James Cook is a great guy to target right now. For years, we were arguing about Singletary and Moss, and we're like, hey, we just want that running back for the Bills. They got it. They found it. And he's going to be the running back for the next 2 years as he finishes out his rookie contract. So if you want a piece of that, now's the time to get it. Already getting more expensive, but he's probably just going to continue to maintain this value, if not get more expensive. So, if you want James Cook for the next 2 years to be a productive running back, the buy window's now.
What is another running back that you are avoiding?
Yeah, another running back I'm avoiding, Isiah Pacheco. Once again, this is all about value. And Kansas City Chief running back, we like him. He's been productive over the past 2 years, year and a half. He's really come on. He's been very productive. He's proved me wrong from where I initially had him. And I've been happy to acquire him in a couple places and use him this year. But going into the offseason, I think time is now to move off of him, as I expect the Kansas City Chiefs, as always, to continue to bring in other competition, move the running back room around. They have some guys they're going to be letting go probably of this year, like Jerick McKinnon. He's going to be finally on his way out, and they'll be replacing him with somebody. So, this room often becomes about, everyone has their role in it. Pacheco has his role in it. I think he'll maintain that role on a most level. I don't think he's going to gain much of a role there. So with what we've seen from Pacheco, it's solid. It's not anything too incredible for fantasy football. So I'm going to be moving away from him, avoiding him this offseason at his current value, and targeting a guy like Tyjae Spears, who is a true riser this offseason. And one of the few running backs I'm actually really excited about this offseason to see how, everything shapes up, how that offense comes together. And I think Tyjae Spears has a really high ceiling. And while those ACLs or lack thereof do concern me, it's wheels up for Tyjae Spears right now. Like I said, a running back on the rise, 26 missed tackles for us, Mike, on 100 attempts. That's really impressive. There's a lot of players out there with 200, 300 attempts who struggle to even get 25, 30 missed tackles forced. 13 runs of 10 yards or more on those 100 attempts as well. So a guy that creates explosive plays on the regular. Tyjae Spears very explosive this year for the Titans. Saw 67 targets, 52 receptions, 385 yards, and a touchdown through the air this year. So 52 receptions out of the backfield. Love to see that as a receiver. That kind of receiving work for a running back is enough to make him fantasy significant just off of that. All the rushing stuff on top of it is just icing on the cake, because 50-something receptions every single year is going to get you into my flex spot most likely. That rushing production that he's now set up for with the Derrick Henry likely leaving the Titans. He is leaving. He's not coming back. We don't expect him to come back. Tyjae Spears likely to be the RB1 there. And if he's truly the RB1, even if it's just 60% of the carries or something like that, they bring in someone to kind of be the 1A, 1B, and he still gets that receiving work. Tyjae Spears has the potential to be a top 12 running back next year. I think we can definitely see that, especially with Will Levis as he continues to grow. They could rely on Tyjae Spears. And with that ability to get him the ball out of the backfield, check down to him, and let him make people miss and get down the field and create yards himself, Tyjae Spears is something that we need to be excited about and someone we need to go after. And right now, you can still get him for a second-round pick. Before long, it's probably going to cost a late first to get him. Josh Jacobs, someone you just mentioned, Mike. I would move Josh Jacobs for Tyjae Spears. Tyjae Spears being only 22 years old. And then also Javonte Williams, another running back that still has that youthfulness to him, but is quickly losing it, and someone I would like to move off of as well. If I need to add a third-round pick to get to Tyjae Spears, I would do that in a heartbeat from Javonte Williams.
I'm going to tell you a guy I'm no longer a fan of, and that is former Memphis, current Dallas Cowboys running back, Tony Pollard. Hey, look, another free agent running back coming off of a disappointing year. Now, hold on. Let's just look at this a little objectively. The narrative is that this year was disappointing, but it really was close to his 2022 season. Okay?
Yeah.
22 will be first, 23 will be second.
All right, hit us.
1,007 to 1,005 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns to 6. The difference here is he was leading the backfield. He was starting every game, not playing second fiddle to Ezekiel Elliott a lot of the time. He didn't excel anymore, and instead he had a career low in yards per carry, 4.0. He's behind a very good Dallas offensive line. He's behind an offense that was clicking. Well, Dak and CeeDee Lamb were clicking, and Dak would spread it around to other guys too. He was running back 24 in Keep Trade Cut, was still running back 14 on the season, but still I'm looking to avoid because I would rather have Zamir White.
Oh, yes.
In 4 games, Nate, for the injured Josh Jacobs, here's what he did in 4 games. He didn't really do much until then, but in those 4 games, 84 carries, 397 yards, and 1 touchdown. So he averaged 4.7 yards per carry. Oh, and as a receiver, not a ton, 9 catches for 60 yards and no touchdowns, but still was getting some receiving work a little bit there as of right now. And of course, this is the time of year where you're going to do a lot of speculation because nothing is written in stone, especially before the draft. But this is where championships are won. He looks to be the Raiders running back 1 heading in the next season. They got question marks at a more important position than running back. That's quarterback. They got their head coach, Antonio Pierce. I'm glad it's him, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
They could save money by sticking with Zamir White. You're not getting much younger going from Jacobs to Zamir White. Let's not forget Josh Jacobs did come out earlier than Zamir White. He's only about a year and a half younger. The wear and tear, however, is significantly less. Zamir White, 121 career carries versus Josh Jacobs, 1,305 career carries.
He's been used
and abused. And look, this takes tolls on guys. We saw what happens. Guys coming off seasons where they lead the league in rushing attempts happened before. Ezekiel Elliott started to slowly decline. Todd Gurley, going back to DeMarco Murray. These guys, they slow down. This is a very, very hard game to play and to be that good for that long. He's currently running back 30 on Keep Trade Cut, which he projects like a late second, but there's also guys valued around him you could move, such as James Conner, or surprisingly, Keaton Mitchell's value is still very close.
Move him. Get
Zamir
off.
White's. I think you might need to add a little bit more to that to get Zamir White, and I would do it. And also Derrick Henry.